You are now tuned in to the Nightcap, 87.9 FM, Radio Generation 2000.com.
Today, how y'all doing?
We're good. We're good and kind of good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait to hold my thoughts on that. But, welcome y'all to another episode of Nightcap. Episode number 28, 29?
I'm 20, 28, 28, 29.
29 right now, man.
28, 29.
We're on top of 29 weeks, wow.
Wow.
People think. Well, it's your boy DJ Intense, the host and moderator of this lovely cast. We also have in the building Miss Golden Goddess. How you doing, girl?
What's up?
Mr. Fresh Prince of New York, how you doing, brother?
Living, man. Doing good.
That's it. And we have the queen of these streets, Miss Lottie Di. How you doing?
Yeah. You know the vibes.
You know the vibes.
Absolutely.
And we have a special guest today,
Yes.
Mr. Walter. How you doing, brother?
Good, you?
I'm doing fantastic. Let's all make a round of applause for Mr. Walter.
Round of applause.
Calling all the way from the 201-973 to come over here and bless us with his presence.
Anytime.
Thank you. Well, Miss Lottie Di,
Yeah. I mean, I think we need to start off the show with a moment of silence.
I'm going to start the show with a moment of silence first.
Yeah, absolutely.
We lost somebody today. A pioneer, I think, in these,
Yeah.
in this whole game right now, man.
Amazing
Today,
artist.
We lost another great rapper, Nipsey Hussle, died at age 34.
33.
33.
Yeah.
33. And it hit me because you seen the growth.
Yes. Absolutely.
And Hussle went about it a whole different route than the normal traditional standards, which
Right.
was, getting a deal, going on a label. He just did it his own way.
Right.
So it's just like,
It's very tragic.
it's tragic,
It's heartbreaking.
and he was built on the block.
He was a beast.
He was built on the block. Giving people opportunities other than to be in the streets.
Right.
And for me to read it on my social media, just him being X'd off like that, I don't like none of that, man.
It's crazy because I was driving on the West Side Highway and I heard on the radio that he was shot. But I'm just sitting here saying to myself, I hope he's okay. And then Miss Golden Goddess was like, yeah, he was shot. But then when I got to where I was going, they were like he was killed.
Yeah, that's what I told you.
Okay.
Not that he was shot, that he died, because I seen it.
I didn't catch that one.
I heard he was shot 6 times. I was
Yeah,
like,
six
six
times,
I was
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Someone showed me the video of them trying to revive him, and they were shaking him and trying to resuscitate, and they said that he wasn't moving at all. I did see them turn him to the side, and you got to do that so you don't aspirate on your own secretions. So to me, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough.
It just reminds you of chin struggles all over again.
Yeah.
Right.
When they're on the way up, ascending to another level, and before they can reach their peak,
Right.
to enjoy the fruits of their labor, now you're 6 feet under.
Prayers out to his family,
His
Laura
girl.
London,
Yes.
their son, another young boy without a father.
Exactly.
So before there was Nipsey the rapper, there's Nipsey the father, Nipsey the family guy, and it's tragic. Yet another young black man gone too soon over senseless violence. Because I really couldn't fathom or imagine what anybody can do to warrant their life getting taken. So, just
I know. I feel like this is week after week after week after week. This is just ridiculous.
But I mean, they're catching these people.
Oh yeah,
They-
at least now they're catching them.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, they're catching them. So that's the good part. Nothing goes unseen, especially in today's world. Somebody saw something who saw somebody. So
They got cameras everywhere.
exactly. So it's only a matter of time before they come to justice.
I'm just.
6 times. I mean, wow. What did this man do to you? That you
Man, woman, you don't know, man.
6 times?
It's a sad thing because it's a cautionary tale that Nips didn't want to do it his way. Where, they say when you make it out the hood, you leave the hood, you leave it behind. Nips like, nah, I'm going to stay back, build it up, show people what it's about and be a self-made. And he did that, and then, just horrible.
It is. I mean, once again, my heart goes out to his family.
We're back, baby. We are back. Well, we have a lovely guest who just walked in the building. Miss Q, how you doing, girl?
Hey, how are you guys?
I am doing all right. I'm glad to see you.
I'm glad to be here.
Fashionably late, but it's okay though.
Listen, when you live in Spring Valley,
No, you made a grand entrance.
I did that. Okay, that's all
Clouds
that
floating
matters.
while you walked in. The room got saucy.
Ooh, I got that Beyonce
power,
fan
boy.
on me and all that. I was in there.
I was like, oh my. Well, once again we have Mr. Lovely Walter and Miss Q in the building, and
Yes.
we're gonna kick it off with Walter.
How's
Tell
it
them
going?
what we do, brother.
I'm an attorney in New Jersey. I also do a little bit of stand-up comedy.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
And I also am a lawyer in New York, but primarily practice in New Jersey.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know, but recently we had a big change. We did it. We changed the law. We've legalized assisted suicide before we legalized marijuana. There's big talk about legalizing marijuana for a while now, and they were this close, and they got to the finish line, and they said, "Oh, we don't have the votes."
Okay.
All right, so
Was that for New Jersey or that was for
that was for New Jersey, yeah.
Okay.
New York, you guys actually just, I think it was just stated that they probably don't have the votes for it either as of right now. But you guys decriminalized it, so it's not as much of an issue.
Okay.
Right now, if you get caught with under, I think it's 25, is it 25 grams? Yeah. I had it right in front of me. Yeah, if it's under 25 grams, it's a violation. But here's the issue with if you get caught with if you get caught with a lit marijuana cigarette, they could still actually prosecute you for a misdemeanor violation.
Really?
Yes. So that's actually something that nobody really knows about. It doesn't get mentioned very often, but and I've seen it happen where people got both the violation and the misdemeanor, and what they do is they end up kicking the misdemeanor sometimes.
Okay.
And you'll just plead to the violation, but it depends. And if you're getting arrested, especially it actually can end up causing an issue so in New Jersey our laws are draconian.
Okay.
They haven't changed them in years.
Okay.
There's the Attorney General guidelines that changed a little bit, but right now because they're waiting on the legalization of it, they have these old rules that you could lose your license for possession of marijuana in New Jersey.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
Now, typically, the first time you get charged with it, you usually do what's called a conditional discharge.
Okay.
Which is it's a diversionary program. It's like you remember when you played Monopoly, they have the get out of jail free card.
Right.
Yeah, they have one of those, but you don't want to use your get out of jail free card on marijuana, probably, right? Especially something like that when it would probably prevent you from being able to use it for something maybe more important, maybe something that's bigger later on down the line.
Okay.
You probably wouldn't want to use it for something so small. But I've also had it where people were kicked out of their diversionary program because they got caught with the violation up in New York, or what happened was with this guy was he had a lit marijuana cigarette, and they had charged him with both the criminal and the violation. He pled to the violation, but because he got arrested for it, it kicked him out of the diversionary program.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can have a couple of different issues with that. I know you guys had some questions about some recent cases, right?
Yeah, but
We'll get to those. So, how long have you been practicing?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. So, So, if anybody that is tuned in and listening and they want to be an attorney, how do they go about things?
I know the answer. I'll let him answer that.
Well, if you're first, you got to go to college.
Of course.
Then you take the LSATs, which are it's a test that really I don't know how to describe it. You do there's 3 parts to the test. There's logical reasoning. There's what they call the game section, and there's reading comprehension section. And basically, it's a multiple choice test. You go through it, and a lot of people take prep courses for it, or you read a book for. They have a couple of prep books for it.
Right.
You score a certain amount on that test, then you apply to law school.
Okay.
And this is the typical path. There's some other alternative paths to becoming a lawyer, not as commonly done anymore.
Okay.
I know New Jersey, this is the primary path. I think New York, up until a couple of years ago, still had an alternative path to becoming a lawyer.
Okay.
I don't know if they still do it.
Okay.
But New Jersey has it where, and New York, and most states, you go to law school for 3 years, and so you apply to law school, then you go ahead and you take the bar exam.
Okay.
I took the bar exam right before New York and New Jersey switched to the uniform bar exam. So what you used to have to do is you used to have to take the New York half the test, drive up to Albany or Saratoga if you lived in New Jersey.
Wow.
Because most of the time, if you're in New York City, you could take it in New York City. But if you were from technically out of state, which New Jersey's out of state from New York,
Correct.
you have to go to Albany or Saratoga or Buffalo.
What?
If you waited to go ahead and sign up for your testing center, I knew people had to go all the way up to Buffalo to go take the exam.
Wow.
Then you take the New York portion, and usually the multi-state portion in New York, although you could take it in New Jersey. And then you have to go all the way back down to Jersey to go take the New Jersey half the exam on a 3rd day.
Really? So you can't just take one test? And
Now you can.
Okay, because...
Back then it was, you had to do, and it changed literally the year after I took the bar exam. So I took the New York portion. It was Tuesday, I was up in Saratoga Springs. Wednesday I was in Saratoga Springs, and then Wednesday night drove all the way back down to Jersey to go take the New Jersey portion of the bar exam.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Put a lot of miles on your car, huh?
Yeah, it's a long trip.
Indeed.
So what led you to becoming an attorney?
It's a good question. People will kind of always say, like, oh, you should go do this. Actually, what really ended up happening for me was I graduated college early. I ended up getting out in 2011, and that was like the peak of the economic. Like, there was just no jobs at that time. It was like one of the hardest times to get a job. And I looked around and I said, you know what? Like, I'd always thought about this. I actually probably didn't know much more than the average person what a lawyer did. Probably knew less at the time.
Right.
But people had told me, like, oh, you should go to law school. I watched a lot of law shows, which aren't really good to explain to somebody what being a lawyer is.
Right.
It's like, oh, I watched Boston Legal. It's like, that has very little bearing on what actually being a lawyer is. It's not all speechifying. It's usually a lot of research and doing investigations and looking at paperwork and news reports and getting experts. So and interviewing people. It's actually, there's more. You probably see more in common with a private investigator show than you would probably in an actual law show where you're watching like Boston Legal or what's another show? I know Suits was very common. Actually, right at the time, I think I watched the first season of Suits right before I went to law school, and I couldn't watch it after that because I was in law school.
Oh.
So you're watching something where you're like, I can't stand. I wanted to get away from all the law stuff at that point. You're like, I'm going to watch TV. I'm going to watch something that has nothing to do with being a lawyer at that point.
Right. Absolutely. So, question. How many questions are on the bar?
The multi-state bar exam is 200 questions. I can't remember off the top of my head.
So, is it a test where you just keep answering questions and then once you hit a certain number, it just automatically shuts off, or you have to go through?
So the first day of the exam, so like when I took it, I took it 3-part technically.
Oh, wow.
So the New York portion of the exam was a bunch of essays, and actually I think back then it was 50 multiple choice, what's called an MPT, which was basically like a practical application part of the exam where they give you like this closed book, like they give you the law, they give you it's like a practical like essay, but it's not like the other essays which are they'll ask you a question about the law and you do what you were taught in law school, IRAC, which is issue, rule, analysis, conclusion.
Okay.
Where you're going through everything and you're going, all right. In New York, it would be you had questions and could be one essay question, could be one fact pattern,
Right.
could be 5 different areas of law.
Oh.
So this one essay that you're reading, this fact pattern that you're reading could be family law, criminal, evidence, and administrative law at the time.
Okay.
And you're going through and you look at the issue, and at the time you're studying for the law, so you go ahead and you go issue. All right, the issue here is Fourth Amendment, getting pulled over, right against search and seizure. You analyze it. Well, this guy, the cop didn't have probable cause to pull the guy over. Whether they would give you the fact pattern. They'd be like, maybe the cop pulled somebody over driving down the parkway, but they didn't state a reason, or there wasn't a reason provided in the fact pattern. He gets pulled over. He finds that he had drugs in the car. He goes to court, and maybe there's some kind of reaction that happens with the family law aspect of it.
Okay.
So you would go through. The first question would be something along the lines of, did the cop have probable cause to pull the person over? Did they have probable cause to search the car?
Right. Because a lot of that seems to happen.
Yes.
When a police officer pulls you over, and all of a sudden they want you to open your glove compartment, they want you to open your trunk. Now, in that situation, if I happen to get pulled over, and what are the proper proceedings when an officer pulls me over? What am I supposed to do?
So this was a question I've often had with a lot of people. This is usually something I talk to people all the time about, and I kind of was expecting this at some point tonight. Was usually when I tell people, there's 3 things I always tell them. One, there was a video that went around a while back. It was a bunch of lawyers, and there was a promotion for their firm, and they would say, "Shut the blank up." I think you could fill in the expletive that probably went in there, but basically, shut up, because you know the part of Miranda where you watch TV shows and people are getting arrested. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. Well, that doesn't just apply to when you're being Mirandized. It's any time up to that point too. Anything you say to a police officer, whether you've been arrested or not, can be used against you in a court of law, even up until the point where he's arrested you. So when you get pulled over, say you get pulled over and you say, "So where are you coming from?" And you say, "Oh, I'm coming from a concert." All right. And did you have anything to drink? Yeah, I actually had like 5 beers. Well, that's it. Yeah, I know people who said that before.
I actually got pulled over on Thursday.
Oh.
And I was asked, was I drinking? Well, clearly you can smell it. I was honest, and I said I had 1 drink. So was I right or wrong for saying that?
You're supposed to say no.
I mean, you can smell it.
Okay. You can smell it.
I
Shirt.
right?
No.
Exactly.
I was.
No.
Well, you
like to be
just
honest.
stated that you were drinking.
Yeah.
I had 1 drink.
And he could have used that against you.
Right.
Been over.
That's true.
You're
nice.
driving while intoxicated. Well, not
Yeah.
intoxicated.
I wasn't intoxicated. I mean,
But
it could have been a beer.
Well, now at this point, he's probably sitting there going, "Well, you said 1 drink. Well,
Correct.
maybe a lot of people probably say, "Oh, I've only had 1 drink tonight." But you just admitted at least to drinking.
Correct.
And you might have had 1 drink, but maybe maybe the bartender gave you a lot of, what were you drinking? Did you have 1 beer, or did you have 1 shot, or did they give you a mixed drink that had a lot of alcohol in it? Because it's the blood alcohol content that the back test that they use, it's not based off of I had 1 beer. It's based off your blood alcohol. So, yeah, they have that little chart that's like, okay, you drink 1 beer for my body weight as a guy at my height. Yeah, that's this much. But still, you just admitted to drinking at this point. So now, A, he knows that you have been drinking, so he has at least an admission of that.
Okay.
And then B, all right, well, maybe they're being honest about drinking because they know I could smell it. But maybe they're lying about the amount. Because people, and I know people who, they said 1, then it became 5 later on, and then later on it's 10, and it can be, depending on, like, okay, well, yeah, you said you've been drinking, so they now ask you to step out of the car. Because now you've at least admitted to drinking.
Correct.
And that's at least on its own somewhat level of incriminating. Whereas if you say no, or you refuse to answer the question, Now it's all right. Well, we don't have a probable cause to ask you to step out of the car and start doing a field sobriety test, or to have you go do an alco test over at the police station. So that right there is one of those situations where now maybe the cop in your situation said, you know what, I think she's telling the truth. She seems like she's fully in her mind.
Right.
So yeah, I know a lot of people who do that. Even when they know it's incriminating, they do say it. But at the end of the day, from a lawyer's standpoint, you're always going to say, shut up, don't say anything incriminating, because you never know, because I can go ahead and file what's called a motion to suppress on something. If they didn't have probable cause to pull you over, if they didn't have probable cause to search your car, if they didn't have probable cause to have you, or to arrest you to come do the alco test, well, you do what's called a motion to suppress, and you get that thrown out. This is where I come to the second part of what I tell people is don't consent to a search. I know a lot of people who consent to a search. Now, again, they need probable cause to search your car. Right. Not when you say, yes, you can search my car. That's usually the issue that ends up happening is people go, yeah, you can go ahead and search my car. You can technically, legally limit the search area, but they're going to probably hear that and go, well, if you're telling me I can't search the trunk, or you're telling me I can search the rest of the car, I'm thinking there's something in the trunk, and I'm going to come up with a reason, or maybe, like I said,
Do you need a warrant to search the trunk?
You don't need a warrant to, for probable, when you get pulled over, right, because that vehicle, so this is where the difference between somebody needing to search your house versus your car. Right? You need a warrant to search somebody's house, correct, generally speaking. And there's a couple of exceptions, but generally speaking, you would typically need a warrant to search somebody's house. But say you're pulling somebody over on the side of the road, at that point, because you're driving a movable object, and it's very hard, at that point you're talking about getting a warrant to search a car, it would be very hard because, all right, well, we have to get a judge, you have to do this. So basically they say, well, as long as you have probable cause at that point, you can search the car. This was a court case that was decided a long time ago, back when, all right, well, we need to go ahead and figure out how we're going to handle these things called cars and how we do searches. So you need probable cause to search the car, but you don't need it if somebody consents to the search. So if I say go ahead and search my car and they find weed in my car, well, now I just went ahead and I can't. Now you get a lawyer. The lawyer looks at it and goes, "Well, I can't file a motion to suppress on you consenting to the search." Now, if they go ahead and say, "I want to search your car," they start searching your car, and they didn't have any probable cause to search the car. They find something. Say, I know somebody who they had a case. Hypothetically speaking, they had a case where the guy said he could smell marijuana on somebody.
Okay.
He searched the car, didn't find any marijuana, found coke, and the coke wasn't even in the car, it was on the ground.
Huh?
It was like underneath the car, like it was I don't remember, I think maybe the coke was on the ground in the car, maybe it was somebody else who had dropped it or something. But if he's saying I could smell marijuana, but he never found any marijuana, nobody smelled like marijuana, and he's finding coke in there, right? Now you're an attorney, you're going to go, I'm going to do a motion to suppress on this because there was no marijuana. He didn't find what he was even looking for.
Right.
So maybe he didn't have probable cause, and maybe this way you pull him in. And I know, and now when you do a motion to suppress in New Jersey, you could actually even bring the cop in to question the cop on the supposed probable cause. Okay. So you're going ahead and asking him to come in and say, okay, you said it smelled like marijuana. Who smelled like marijuana? Was it an individual? Was it the car? Was it the whole car? Was it when they stepped out? Did it change? When you searched the car, did you find any marijuana? No. What'd you find? Coke. Well, that doesn't smell like marijuana now, does it?
Yeah, there too. Does Coke even have a scent?
See, this is where I gotta go with Walter right here.
And now the third thing I always tell people, though, and this is why there's like 3 rules I tell everybody. The third one is demand your lawyer, because the second they arrest you, you have to say I want my lawyer. After you've been arraigned, the rules change.
Have one.
Well, even if you say lawyer, right? You have to say, I want a lawyer. I want my lawyer. I'm not talking till I see my lawyer. Okay. They have to now cease communication. After they do that whole, you have the right to an attorney, you have the right to remain silent. Now, if you go ahead and say, there's a TV show where there's It's just showed billions. I haven't watched it. I remember watching one episode of it, and the guy's getting arrested, and he's going lawyer, lawyer, lawyer the second he got arrested. The reason why he's doing that is they have to cease communication with him now that he's requesting his lawyer.
Okay.
Couldn't you just not say anything?
You can. But now, well, first off, not saying anything doesn't stop him from wanting to question you. So, say you're getting arrested, and you can sit there and not say anything. But now you also, there was a court case a couple of years ago where they said you actually have to invoke your right to remain silent. So it's not that you have to not say anything. You now have to go ahead and say, I'm not answering on Fifth Amendment grounds. I'm invoking my right to remain silent. Used to be it wasn't considered like that, and then there was a court case a few years ago that changed. And they basically said, no, well, because otherwise they might take a shrug or...
As an answer.
Yeah. So it became, well, now you have to invoke, and you know, it's better off that way anyway for some people, because you just go ahead and say, I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment right. I don't want to say anything right now.
Because really all they're looking to do is find something that you're going to say to incriminate you. They're not going to help you by you speaking, so I don't think you should speak to them probably at all, right?
Yeah, so that's why the 3 rules are: shut up, don't consent to a search, and demand your lawyer.
Yeah.
Because there's people don't realize it. Even if, like, say your family member knew you were arrested and they call your lawyer and they say, go meet him here, go find him. Well, you can't invoke your brother's right to an attorney.
Yeah.
So your brother got arrested, and you call me up and you go, hey, well, can you go down to the police station? Well, that's great that I'm driving down there, but he has to still say, I want to speak to my lawyer.
Yeah. Legally.
Yeah, until he's arraigned. It's the weird thing. The court system kind of makes a delineation at when you're arraigned. That's when the Fifth Amendment stops, the Sixth Amendment kicks in, which is kind of a weird... There's like different delineations with all the points of when your Fifth Amendment... Like, so for instance, we were talking about before Miranda. Well, statements even before you've been Mirandized, if you haven't been arrested yet, like say the cop pulls you over and says, oh, where you've been coming from, you know, you say, oh, I had a couple of drinks, or I had a drink, that could be used against you. Now say you've been arrested and they don't read your Miranda rights, the statement said from that point on, once you've been arrested, if they don't read your Miranda, now almost all of them now do the Miranda, it's a pretty much standard protocol in America, no matter what police department you're in, that they're going to start reading your Miranda rights.
So I've seen situations where they forget to do it. And
that's and the statements made from that point when you're getting arrested are technically supposed to be tossed out. Now I say technically because you needed an attorney to go ahead and review that case. Now this is where the Sixth Amendment is the one that guarantees you your right to an attorney, and then a lot of the times you'll go to public defender. They'll go ahead and they'll review it. Maybe they might review the case, but you get some places where there's not adequate public defender resources.
Right.
And maybe they get 5 minutes on a case.
That's not enough time, is it?
Yeah, like I think there was an article a while back about a public defender in Nevada who had, I think it was a bidding system. So he bid it, I think he bid 100,000, but he also had a ridiculous amount of cases that he couldn't possibly handle correctly.
Wow.
So you're talking about having to read through these cases, talk to your client, and have enough time to be able to file a motion to suppress on a statement. Maybe if you've been arrested already at this point, and you said, oh yeah, at that point you say, yeah, actually I have been drinking after you've been arrested, but maybe they didn't read you the Miranda rights. It does happen, because I've had situations where, in fact, I'll go over a story that happened to me. Is I was driving up right before I went to law school. I was actually checking out Rutgers. I went down on a Sunday to go look at the campus, which is, I went to law school at Rutgers in Newark, and I went down, checked out the campus. It was in the summer, so there wasn't really anything going on. I wasn't even able to get in the law building, but I had to put the deposit down.
Right.
So I drive back up. I go up the Turnpike. I go up the Palisades Interstate Parkway. I get pulled over. Basically, this cop's already pulled over somebody, And at the time, they just changed the law to now you have to yield and get into the other lane when you're on the highway when a cop has his lights on and he's pulled over to the side of the road.
Yeah. I know my dad was talking about that. That
Yeah.
in Jersey, you can't be on that right lane. You have to go around it.
You basically have to move over to the next lane. So if the cop is...
What if I'm not from Jersey and I don't know the...
Same thing.
Yeah.
You're presumed, if you're driving in New Jersey, you're presumed to know the law. This is one of the biggest problems in the whole country. I think I do not understand how we have a system like this where we... And no point... do you have a law class in most grade schools or most high schools? Probably not. You probably don't learn any aspect of this. But you are presumed to know the laws by operating your vehicle in New Jersey, by living, or just by existing. You're supposed to know the laws that you are in the state of, which is kind of a weird concept if you think about it. It's like you are presumed to know this obscure law that... And this actually might bring us to some of the cases you guys brought up that I know you guys were probably thinking of bringing up, or even I know that so there's in New Jersey you have to stop the pedestrians in the crosswalk, and New York you yield. Well, there's actually another subsection of that law that says specifically for blind people you also have to yield when they're in the crosswalk. Which is kind of weird and obscure, and you wouldn't know about that unless you looked at that statute. But there's just random laws that exist that you're like, you'd have to specifically have it pointed out to you. But for instance, say maybe you... so I know you had somebody who you wanted to talk about was... I know you wanted to talk about Crystal Mason and...
later, I want to say that.
Oh, you want to save?
Yeah,
okay, because there's two cases that you brought up with me that you said you wanted to talk about tonight. That both of those could probably be considered the same concept. Is they probably didn't know they were never taught these rules that you're supposed to be living by, and some of these are more obscure than others. There was one about maybe it wasn't just Crystal Mason. There was another one that you were bringing up about let's see. Oh, Kelly Williams Bowler.
Yeah.
With her case...
I'm saving that for later,
yeah,
too.
we're going to get into
All
that.
right.
Yeah, we're really going to get into that, and we'll ask you all the questions that we need to.
Miss Q. Welcome
I like
back.
How you look over. I'm like,
This Walker just rammed all this information in my head, and it's throbbing. But, Miss Q, how are you?
I'm great. And yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm glad to see you.
Oh, I'm actually really happy to be here. I really am.
She is.
I'm
she
happy
likes
to be here.
hanging
I
with
like
us.
hanging with you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate
It's
it.
cool.
You have an important event coming up soon. Can you tell people about it?
Yes. So for those who do not know, I am putting on the Teen Summit weekend. So the 5th is the, I would say, launch event where we're supporting JB Boykin and, the little kids. Get the little kids out there, have their championship basketball game at Spring Valley High School. And on the 6th, that's my big event. That one is the Teen Summit. That's going to be at the Cultural Arts Center on Main Street. That starts at 5 p.m. That one's going to be really big. That's going to be for the teenagers. And, of course, we got to represent ourselves, the adults. So on Sunday, we're going to do the All-Star basketball game. And we're going to do that at West Rock in Nanuet.
Yeah,
So it's
going to
a whole weekend. Yeah, the jerseys are out.
Fire.
So it's going to be like Q Talks versus Still I Rise, which is Sabrina Charles. She's on one of the members for the school board. So
yes, yes.
we're gonna
Shout out Miss Charles.
Shout out. She's actually running for trustee, so if you guys haven't signed the petition, be sure to sign that soon.
We will.
But yeah, so we're gonna be doing that. Have a big basketball game, and at the end of the game, everyone's gonna head over to the spot in Nanuet, and then we're just gonna have some, drinks, mix and mingle, and we'll just recap the entire weekend.
Remember, don't. If the cops pull you over, don't say anything. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You were just mixing and mingling.
Yes, I was just
right?
mixing and
Yeah,
mingling.
no
There you go.
drinks.
I'm gonna call you
That is an
DJQ.
exactly good way to answer that
You're booked
question.
and busy, huh? She said Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Yeah,
coming
the
up.
whole itinerary going on.
Listen, if no one's doing it for you, you gotta do it yourself, right?
Amen.
That's
Amen.
it.
Yeah, I gotta give a few shout outs. I definitely want to give a shout out to each and every Thursday. Fritz from Radio G2K got a show going on. That was what, a flight?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to give a shout out to Therapy Tuesday, always in the check-in. And I want to give a shout out to I forgot the name of the other shows. I'm horrible with that. I gotta give a shout out to DJ Woods and his show and everybody else that be on Radio GTK. You know, definitely want to give y'all a shout out. Thank you guys for tuning in each and every Sunday to the Nightcap. So, Miss Golden Goddess, what you got?
Obamacare. You know, Donald Trump has yet again on his attack for Obamacare. And for the people who are not too familiar with what's going on, when Obama first enacted his provision on the Affordable Care Act, one of the things that he was doing was making people pay taxes if they didn't get health care. So, you know, Congress has since voted that was unconstitutional. So now, you know, that's the reason why we're not paying no fees when we do our taxes. I don't recall if you recall, but like 2 years ago, you had to show that you had insurance when you filed your taxes or you would face a fine. So they got rid of that.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, they ruled that was unconstitutional.
You got insurance? Oh, you bugging?
No, it's not unconstitutional.
I mean, the mandate was unconstitutional.
So what happened was that
Here comes the
He's
walk.
gonna give me the proper legal.
there's actually a major court case about that, and this was a very weird court case because this was where John Roberts actually saved the Affordable Care Act. Now Congress doesn't rule something's unconstitutional. They can write a new law and change it. So that's probably what you're talking about, is that they might have altered the law to get rid of the mandate or change, or honestly, what I think the most recent thing, I wish I had actually looked more on this, but so the mandate's not illegal, because basically the way that they did the mandate is that John Roberts said that because the
Time out. Who's John Roberts?
this Chief Justice John Roberts, he wrote the opinion in the first Supreme Court case that had to deal with the Affordable Care Act. This was the one that basically ruled that it was constitutional because basically the mandate was just a tax.
Okay.
Because the mandate didn't put you in jail for not having it. What it did was that it fined you
Correct.
for not having insurance, and basically all that was basically a tax.
Correct.
So that's how it was deemed. That's how it was deemed constitutional. So they said that you couldn't. So they said, okay, so now you could do that, but Congress can go ahead and say, well, we don't want to have. The Affordable Care Act. They can go ahead and repeal it. Now they haven't repealed the Affordable Care Act. I do know that they have opened up more junk policies to be available.
Okay.
So it used to be you would go on the website and pretty much all the policies are very clearly written.
That's correct.
I haven't been on it recently, but I know it's gotten a little bit more because there was a second Supreme Court case. This was the one with it had to do with the religious exemption, to turn around and say, oh well, I don't support this kind of healthcare. This was Hobby Lobby's one.
Okay.
And
Can you explain what Hobby Lobbies are? People don't know.
Well, I didn't come in prepped on that on these cases. Hobby Lobby was saying that it was they're saying that they shouldn't have to pay for healthcare because they should have a religious exemption. They don't believe in abortion or birth control, so why should they have to pay for this healthcare, for this kind of healthcare? What ended up happening is that they said, because they're saying basically by requiring them to have the healthcare for their employees, because part of the Affordable Care Act said if you had a certain amount of employees, you have to have healthcare for them.
Correct.
So they were saying, okay, well, we want an exemption. We should be able to piecemeal out certain things based off of what we are religiously against. So the Supreme Court in that case, it didn't even address that issue. They actually said that so they haven't really said that you could or couldn't object to it. They basically, that was still Kennedy was on the Supreme Court. This was the one that stepped down, and we had Brett Kavanaugh, who was put in and I think it was Kavanaugh was the most recent one. That was the So Kennedy was still in the Supreme Court, and they just said that the state didn't take enough. They didn't weigh the religious exemption, a religious aspect of it enough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So but what they're starting to do now, in as far as with the Affordable Care Act, is they're starting to. While Trump was president, they were starting to let like some of these junk policies get into the. Again, I kind of wish I had more prep time on that.
That's okay.
No, that's fine. Golden Goddess, continue with the article.
Yeah, so that's what they did. That basically, you're not going to be penalized anymore if or taxed, like Otto was saying, if you don't have healthcare insurance. So basically, they're fighting now to pretty much repeal the whole thing, and Trump seems to have a plan that is going to better cover Obamacare. So basically, in a nutshell, what they're saying is that they don't think that it's going to work out the way that Trump plans it, because then a lot of people with pre-existing conditions and Medicaid will lose their coverage. Approximately 20 million people if Obamacare is repealed. So we're just going to sit back and see what's going on.
That includes me. I'm on Medicaid.
You're not gonna lose your insurance.
You rich. You ain't losing nothing.
You're not losing your insurance. I mean, although healthcare is expensive, it was an arm and a leg for myself. I had to pay a lot. But I just hope that they come up with a better plan.
Well, right now, at least there's some. You have the Democrats who have Congress, you have the Republicans who have Senate, you have Trump in the White House. So they have to come up with they're pretty much at a stalemate, but they'd have to at least come up with some kind of, they're not going to be able to repeal it. So the only thing they can do is kind of keep on
fine-tuning it in a sense where
so
they can either fine-tune it, because there's also, so when you write a law, usually the law is not just done. You have administrative aspects to the law.
Right.
That's the thing that Trump has control over, because he's in the executive branch.
Right.
This is where compare it to when you have laws that are written for drivers in your state. The DMV is an agency that administrates the law.
Right.
So sometimes the agency will go ahead and change things based off of, now they have certain criteria that they have to act by in order to change their administrative codes.
Okay.
Right.
So this is why you'll sometimes see point values change on driver violations.
Okay.
If the state left it up to the agency to go ahead and make those decisions.
All right. Cool. Well, DJ Intense, what you got this week going?
Well, I'm making one quick one. Meat Mills on a roll. You had a Meat Mill Day in Philadelphia. Had a Meat Mill Day in Connecticut.
Right.
Had a Meat Mill Day in, where was the last one? Was it Houston?
He had Houston.
Yes.
Yes.
And now we added one more to the Meat Mill celebration. Atlanta has a Meat Mill Day for March 29th.
Wow.
As Meat Mill Day. So in 4 separate cities, that Meat Mill visits because of concerts or etc. He has a Meat Mill Day.
That's dope. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Anything else special?
My buddy's here and we're talking about law, so I'm gonna try to just. I have a topic that was bothering me. Miss Lottie Dottie had one last week. She spoke about Miss Kelly Williams Parker. Remember that story? Mm-hmm. Can you enlighten us what that story was again, Miss Lottie Dottie? You remember? Or
brain fart.
Okay, well I got you. In 2011, when she went to jail for 10 days, 3 years probation given, $70,000 fine for falsifying her children's address so they can go to a better school and a better school district. She used her father's home address in Ohio, was just about her father. Meanwhile, you have Lori London, Felicia Hamoff, and many others that were charged for fraud and cheating the SAT and ACT exams. Mm-hmm. Bribes and kickbacks to Division I schools, and the coaches in Division I schools use fake athlete credentials to get their kids in, And the one who's behind it all is William Rick Singer, the mastermind behind it all, the key exam. So that's a whole thing. So I want to be just touching on, there's, the injustice you see.
Right.
Because you have a woman who's in Ohio that got 10 days in jail, 3 years probation, and we're still waiting for Miss Lloyd London and Felicia Huffman.
I know.
And many others who are part of
Right.
that college scandal.
I think they're gonna get away.
I don't think so. What do you think, Walt?
As far as that case, as far as the current one that's pending, we're not going to know until that's resolved. As far as with Kelly Bowler's case, there's a lot that should be, people should look at that and tie that to redlining. Do you know what that is?
No. Could you elaborate?
So this is there's a historical context to redlining. And actually, there's a few videos up. If you ever watch this show called Adam Ruins Everything, it's on True TV.
Yeah.
And he did a video about this, and it's about the history of redlining and accrual wealth in America. And so back in the 30s and 40s, right around the GI Bill. Remember when not the GI, but basically when they made it easier for people to go ahead and get mortgages and be able to buy property. Well, they came up with a system where they had green neighborhoods and red neighborhoods. And the green neighborhoods were mostly white, and the red neighborhoods were mostly people who were not white, minority, people who were black or other races. And so the green neighborhoods got easier funding to go ahead and buy or get a mortgage for a house and accrue wealth. People in the red neighborhoods had a harder time. So say you were living in a neighborhood that was, you can compare it even up here in Rockland County if you're comparing Pearl River or Spring Valley, where say they had Spring Valley was a red neighborhood or Pearl River was a green neighborhood. Now say, and this actually happened in Levittown in New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when they were building Levittown, the developer even said that they were looking to only sell those properties to people who were white. So now say you're trying to buy into a neighborhood that's in the green zone. Well, the developer there is not willing to sell it to you. This is why in the 60s and 70s you started seeing laws that said that you couldn't do this anymore. That's why you have the Fair Housing Act, Fair Housing Practices Act, where you're not allowed to go ahead and discriminate based off of race. It still ends up happening, but the reality, this is at least where the law developed from.
Okay.
But now you look at it, and now we're 40 years later, and people who bought into those areas ended up growing. Maybe their family accrued wealth in that area, and now there's also people who now maybe that's where the better schools are. So in this situation, you have Kelly Williams Bowler, who she lived in one area of Ohio, and she wanted her kids to go to the better school, and she wasn't living there, but her father was. And she said, well, I want to go ahead and have my kids live, say my kids live there. It's kind of weird because you think about it, it's like, oh, well, at least he's, it's not like she's saying some stranger.
It's her father.
So she actually, and her case, the weird thing, so the thing to note on her case was that she was originally charged and convicted of felonies, and Governor Kasich at the time had reduced them down to a misdemeanor. But and she was charged with falsifying records. Yeah. Now, those two cases between her and the cases you're talking about with the celebrities that are over in California, the major differentiation between those two cases is they're in two different states. You see this all the time. Is New Jersey is harder on marijuana than say New York is, because New York's changed the law on that. You also see with cell phone tickets, New Jersey, you don't get any points for your first cell phone ticket. In New York, you get 5 points. But also their traffic laws are completely different too. For instance, New Jersey, your third one will give you points and a risk of suspension, but it's cumulative over 10 years. In New York, it's over 18 months. So that those 5 points go away after 18 months.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then the next one I have is Brock Turner versus Khalif Browner. Now, Brock Turner, if y'all remember, was a Stanford kid that was caught raping a woman. The People stopped him, held him down till the cops got there. Was found guilty of all charges. Was recommended 6 years in prison, but ended up getting 6 months in jail with 3 months probation. Versus Khalif Browner, who was arrested at 16 for allegedly stealing a backpack, was never convicted of a crime, never had a trial, yet he spent more than 3 years in Rikers Island.
Wow.
Bail was never set, never had a trial.
That's crazy.
And this is actually a major thing. So we talked about this when you brought up the first time, and we were here, but
Yeah.
so Khalif Browder's case. This is the issue in New York. They still have cash bail. Well, New Jersey just got rid of cash bail a few years ago.
Okay.
They now have a risk assessment system, and what happens is now 20% of the people they've had a reduction in people waiting for trial by 20% in New Jersey. Because a lot of times, New York's one of the most strict as far as their bail goes, because usually they give you two options, right? They give you cash or bail, a bond. So it means you have to go to a bail bondsman.
Right.
And a lot of times bail is set at like $2,500, but you can't afford, if you're a low income person or you're poor, you can't go ahead and afford bail. Yeah. There's a guy who I follow on Twitter. I think I actually had his name on here. In case people want to follow him, he's actually a public defender in New York City, Scott Hecht, and he talks about this all the time, and it's a major issue from his point of view because he's a public defender, where you have a lot of people who are low income or poor who can't afford bail. The current bail system doesn't address the people who are accused of the most dangerous of crimes. It addresses people who just can't afford to get out. Meanwhile, people are still likely to show up for trial. I mean, you're still going to end up having a warrant for your arrest if you don't show up. So it doesn't make sense to have this cash bail system when we have a way more refined system. It's an antiquated system.
Right.
And so with Khalif Browder's case, I mean, Rikers Island has a giant, it just has a specific part of the population that's there waiting trial.
Right.
Yeah.
So in his case, he ended up committing suicide because he dealt with physical and sexual abuse while he was in prison.
Exactly. Especially at 16.
That's crazy.
No, which was hard.
And this is something that the legislature should deal with. They should fix. New Jersey changed it by amendment. This was a referendum. We voted on it. And it got changed to the current system that it is, where you go in, they fill out a rubric, they look at your background, or you consider a danger. What's the crime you're charged with? Oh, you're charged with something like possession of marijuana, or you're charged with
pissing in the park.
Okay. All right, they do a rubric, you're out that day. You might not even wait in jail.
Okay.
Right.
They fingerprint you, they let you go.
And
ROR.
Trial set for later.
Yeah, show up at Hackensack Court on XY date.
Okay.
In New York, and I actually know somebody who's been charged with things in both states, and he waited in Rikers Island for a weekend because he was waiting for bail. So it gets and he said it's a scary place to sit in. It's a scary place to be.
Okay.
Wow, that's really tough.
Now we have Paul Manafort versus Crystal Mason. Paul Manafort, which is Trump's former campaign manager, lied to the feds, faced more than 24 years in prison after being convicted of tax and bank fraud, but had his sentence reduced to 47 months in prison, which is roughly 4 years. Crystal Mason, on the other hand, a woman from Texas, served 5 years behind bars for voting. She casted a vote in last year's election, for the presidential election, but was not able to vote because she was a felon, convicted of voter's fraud. Macy in 2011 also was convicted of tax fraud. That's why she was on parole. So that, two extreme cases. You got a guy who mismanaged money and a woman who just accidentally voted, and both facing the same time of years in jail, which makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Which is crazy.
And this is another thing where we were talking about before, where you have different jurisdictions and different laws. And with Manafort, he was charged federally, and I was actually a little shocked to find out Crystal Mason's in federal prison.
Wait, she went to federal prison?
That was one of the things that when I looked it up, it said she went to federal prison, but it was a state statute that she violated. So I don't know. I'd have to look more into that aspect of it as to why she was being held in a different prison.
Isn't federal higher than state? Or
It's just different. I mean, in the hierarchy, people think of federal as being higher, but like most murder cases are in state. Most arrests for most charges are state or state charges. Okay. So if you get arrested for, pick your crime, burglary in New York, it's different than getting arrested for burglary in New Jersey. And federally, they don't really deal with burglaries. They deal with different types of charges. So as far as, I don't know why she's in federal prison. It might be that there's a reason, like a deal for the state to do that. Mm-hmm. But as far as with Crystal Mason goes, I mean, Texas has
laws are tough.
Texas laws are tough. But the weird thing is Texas discovery rules are different than are better than New York's. In New York, again, another state. It's funny people think of New York as such a progressive state, a very forward-thinking state, very blue state. But like the discovery rules in New York are horrible. You won't find out half of your case until the day of trial. Sometimes and then like we were talking about before, cash bail. People are sitting behind bars, and they waiting for trial for months, years on end, because they can't afford bail.
Wow.
And these are things that people in the state should address, the state legislature should address.
Right.
And the only way that gets fixed is by people voting against it, by people voting for candidates who say, I'm for getting rid of cash bail, I want this new system in place.
Right.
I'm for fixing the discovery laws that make it harder to defend, and being for criminal defense is not usually a very popular thing, or hasn't historically been popular, right? It's much more popular to be against crime, not be against now hopefully it's changing. I think maybe the world is changing on that.
Okay.
Right.
In Crystal Mason's situation, I think this is I think it's something that articulates the issues with what we were talking about earlier with people just don't know the law a lot of the time.
No,
she probably didn't realize that. She probably thought by being a felon just meant her vote didn't count. Her ballot was a provisional ballot. It wasn't even one that like she was registered and it was absolutely going to count. It was a provisional ballot. It wasn't even going to count anyway.
Right.
So she probably didn't think. She just probably thought, "Oh, my vote will count." Not, "I'm going to go to jail for 5 years."
Yeah. Who would have thought that?
Now, Florida was another state that had a bar against felon voting, and they just changed it by constitutional amendment.
They did, yes.
And they did it by, again, referendum. It seems to be the strangely enough, the big way to get people out of these, the big way to fix some of these problems is through getting the politicians out of the way of it, doing referendums, doing constitutional amendments to the state constitution. And right now they're putting it forward. They've already voted on it. It's already gone through. They're just working on the process of it, and now there's some questions as to which of those felons that are. So, for instance, if you were convicted of vehicular homicide, because there's two things that were left out in the constitutional amendment, which was people convicted of murder and people convicted of sexual offenses. So, which sexual offense falls under that and which doesn't, and what counts as murder? Is vehicular homicide considered murder under this constitutional amendment?
Okay. Wow, that's interesting. I have a question. Have you heard of Jussie Smollett?
Yes. That is an interesting case.
There we go.
I mean, it was, and I have to ask, what is your opinion? What is your outtake on that case and the overall ruling? For a person to have 16 counts.
Oh, thank you.
That means that the police department was sure that this man was guilty. And then to come out and find out he's innocent.
Fully.
Well, okay, so there's different aspects of that case. One was the police, the prosecution, and then Smollett. Smollett and his attorney still said, listen, this is what happened. This is what I said. I never lied. I never did this.
Correct.
The prosecution released a statement saying that the prosecution released an odd statement, which was it didn't address whether or not they said that they believed him, but they didn't believe. They believe they could have proceeded with it, but because of he turned over his $10,000 cash bond, and he did, I think, about 18 hours of community service, and they said they were saying, you know what, this is how we feel like it should be resolved. The police still maintain that they have enough evidence to go forward. Honestly, from all angles, I think it's better for everybody that it kind of goes this way. I think the prosecution probably looked at it and said, well, first off, because nobody got hurt. Like, even if at the end of the day, what Jussie Smollett did was, even if you take it from the point of view of what Jussie Smollett, if you take it from, if he did falsify anything, if he did stage it, honestly, nobody got hurt. So my point of view is, I don't think he should have ever spent a day in jail. I think a felony on his record would have been a lot for something of this nature.
Right.
Nobody physically got hurt from it. It did cost a lot of money, but part of the reason why it cost a lot of money was because he was famous. Because they wouldn't have spent $120,000 worth of resources if this was somebody on the street who just said this happened. This was because he was famous. So with Jussie Smollett, I think it's better because you get it out of the news. You get it out of the way. Whereas if you draw this out with a trial and you're really trying to prove that he falsified something, you're keeping it in the news and you're gonna keep on. There's no benefit to it. Again, there was no victim here. So I don't get I think the prosecution said this is gonna look bad no matter what we do. And I know the police had their statement on it, and they said that, well, we think that he falsified. They had the 16 counts. And I know they're annoyed that they wasted resources, but at the end of the day, it doesn't benefit anybody by keeping it going, because it doesn't sound like he's not pushing for, like, you remember before he was doing interviews about it and saying things that didn't kind of match up with when the facts came out, and now his lawyer's going out and making statements and saying, oh, well, maybe one of the guys was in whiteface underneath the mask or whatever. I just don't think it benefits either side to keep it going and to kind of let it. At this point, you're resolving it without keeping it in the news, and everybody saves face. And again, there was no victim at that point in time. You could say that the state was a victim, and you could say that there could have been potential victims, but at the end of the day, I don't think he would have deserved to go to jail for what happened. Okay. So, I think that what happened, giving up $10,000 cash bail, I don't have an assessment of it. I also don't have the actual evidence. I've never been able to look at, what statements they really have or don't have. I've never been able to interview Jussie Smollett. So for me to personally have an opinion on whether or not somebody's innocent or guilty without ever looking at facts is not a beneficial way of looking at a court case or any kind of charges. It's when you look at the potential outcome, it was. I think everybody moves beyond this quicker by having it resolved now and by the way it was resolved.
Hold on with me.
Articulate.
Big up my boy Articulate, baby. Mr. Petty Post. Hey.
Real, so earth.
Bubble to the ground. Bubble to the bubble to the bubble to the ground.
Pata cook, so the rice.
Bubble to the ground. Bubble to the bubble to the bubble to the ground.
Everybody fake, so friendships.
Bubble to the ground. Bubble to the bubble to the bubble to the
Every
ground.
time you degrade, you hate us.
Bubble to the ground. Bubble to the bubble to the bubble to the ground.
Shut down, the stocks them.
Bubble to the ground. Bubble to the bubble to the bubble to the ground.
Russia them a one, it's America way.
Bubble to the ground. Bubble to the bubble to the bubble to the ground.
If you don't eat right, your health will.
Bubble to the ground. Bubble to the bubble to the bubble to the
If you don't trust God, your faith will.
bubble to the ground. Bubble to the bubble to the bubble to the ground.
It's a tough day today, man.
It's a very, very tough day. My energy is kind of low.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to keep it up, but the whole Nipsey Hussle thing just.
Yeah. It
It's just a so wretched feeling I have. It's
I didn't know him, but it definitely.
I've been on the Hustle wave for a long time
absolutely.
since the marathon.
Yeah.
And before that, so watching the growth, And
Amazing.
like I said, I just feel like it's just Chink drugs all over again. Where, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause he had the last song. You listen to Racks in the Middle.
Right.
Listen to the words he's talking about in that song. I was like, okay. But then now you hearing it with him dying.
Yeah, he just
It
seems
has a
so
whole
personable.
new meaning behind it, man.
Yeah, he seems so personable. It feels like you know him, even though you don't know him. Some celebrities just give off that
Also
vibe.
had that vibe of like he was cousin from the block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Humble.
Everybody's cousin from the block. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, you know, I done do this, I done did that, but I'm gonna try and make it different for everybody else so we all can succeed, man. For something like this to happen to him, it's crying shame, man.
R.I.P. man. Feel sorry for his son. I believe he had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has 2 kids.
Two.
2 kids, right? One with Lauren London
One with
and
Lauren London.
before one, right?
Yeah.
We got with Lauren London?
Yeah.
See, I don't pay attention to celebrity
That's
movies.
the reason why we couldn't get ATL too.
Yeah.
He's like, nah.
He had to. I mean, Lauren London's a baddie. Shout out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is
not
it-
shout
Little
out.
Wayne had that too?
Huh?
Wayne.
Yeah.
Yeah, her first sons were Little
Yes,
Wayne.
Little Wayne's baby mom as well.
She gonna go back to Lil Wayne.
No,
No, she
not.
not.
She got
Nah.
hustle music. She need that bread keep coming.
Stop. She got her own paper.
Exactly.
Doing what?
I mean,
doing?
I think
She got a new show coming out on BET.
and I believe he was supposed to be in it as well.
Probably, but it's
they,
coming out.
They just did this relationship back and forth with cards.
that
and reading.
was
Yeah.
a snippet, but this show is it's something like I forgot the name, but it premieres on BET soon, like within the next couple of weeks.
Man,
It's just,
I don't. This is gonna be a
Don't boom
tough.
boom boom boom.
I ain't putting her. I'm just saying.
Now, I mean, this is sad right now. Like,
It's sad.
you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
they're definitely a staple couple in the black community. You know,
I like
I mean,
them
they broke
together.
up, they got back together, they were doing their thing. You know,
And they broke up.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
They
it
broke
was
up
like
a few months ago. It was like a few weeks.
Not even. I think a few days, and then next thing we knew,
Typical couple stuff.
exactly,
It's over.
It was over.
But you're going back like a day or
Exactly.
two after.
Yeah,
And they made it
'cause She
work.
got that hustle flow. Get the hustle flow. That's why. You know. You see, man. You see a tall brother like that one on the street with all that money. She gonna let that money
She
go.
got her own. She had her own.
By
money
doing
too.
what?
Nipsey
She
was
was
smart.
acting.
He was smart, educated,
Nipsey was smart, educated,
good
and
looking,
was
charismatic.
Wait, I look, he's not really that good looking.
He was.
He
good
better
looking.
watch your mouth.
Are you crazy?
His money was long.
No,
No, he's a cute looking guy.
Good looking.
You know,
He's a
he's part of that
handsome
beard
looking
gang.
guy.
It's something about
Yes.
that beard gang. Tell
I'm
him
not
Fresh
expecting
Prince.
hustle music.
Ah.
I'm just saying. It's a fine
Why that
brother
look,
that-
Fresh
Also got
Prince?
the beard too.
Yeah, what's wrong with it? You know the beard
Walter's turning
gang.
red.
I mean, I'm already naturally red anyway, so it doesn't help.
You know, it's that beard gang. There's
Yeah.
just something about that. That
Fresh
is
Prince,
so
don't act like
enticing.
that. You know you part of the beard gang.
Yeah. That beard gang. is So
Unfortunately,
enticing.
DJ Intense is not part of
yummy.
nothing. I have nothing on my face,
You know,
man.
shout out
Yes,
to
you
the
do.
beard
You got a
gang.
beard.
Listen, I got taco in my face.
Shout out to the taco meat gang. They need love too.
Yeah, I don't know about the taco meat.
I do, man. Look,
I don't-
I ain't connected at all.
I do not.
You gotta use some- you gotta use
I
some-
am 33 years old.
You gotta
and
use
I
some
I have
oils.
yet to just shave none of this. I'm trying to grow.
You gotta
Yeah,
use
that
some
Rasta
beard
man.
oils.
That nature's blessing.
Yeah, yes, beard oils.
Listen, the best beard
You
oil
gotta
that
put the
comes out of
oils
my
on
woman,
you.
So that's all I gotta say.
You know he got taco meat all here too.
Listen, you better use some fruit. You better use some fresh
Leave my
fruits and
machismo
berries.
me alone, okay? They like it. I be in the gym, and when I take off my shirt, go on the side, they be look like, ooh, I'm like, yeah. Boom, 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 boom.
DJ Intense has taco meat on his chest, and we do not.
Listen, I want someone to call in and commend my taco meat right now. I would love to have that right
Yo,
now.
any caller who supports taco meat
845-419-1825. Call in and represent for the taco meat crew.
and tell
I'm
us
tired of
whether you
disrespecting
like
out there.
Mayo or Diablo sauce on that taco meat.
All right?
Yeah, Miss Lottie Dottie does not advocate for taco meat. So
That's
if you
Miss
got-
Lottie Dottie.
If you got taco meat and you dealing with
Shave
me,
that
we
thing
gotta
off.
shave it off.
Put some Nair in his body wash.
Yeah,
before
I
you
ain't
go on
gonna
that
know.
time.
Yeah, exactly. It's coming off because I can't lay on your chest with
All
some.
the way off.
Yeah, Yeah, with some.
Taco meat or nothing.
I
Nothing.
prefer nothing. I want a bare chest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nothing.
I
Only
prefer
thing should be
nothing.
on that thing is baby oil.
I prefer a bare chest.
Lottie Lottie wants razor bumps on her man's chest. That's what you
You can put some 10 skin on that. That'll take away the razor
We
bump.
can go to European spa. We can get a wax day.
So gonna wax my chest off and
Yes.
turn it red?
Yes.
I feel like that scene in 4-Year-Old Virgin.
On the next hot topics, do you like chest hair or nah?
Yeah.
Me?
No, we asking the ladies.
Ladies.
I would hope the men don't like no chest hair.
I'd be surprised with men like,
I think the vast majority. I think the vast majority would real no hair.
No chest
No
hair.
hair.
women,
hair.
please.
We
No
do
hair.
not like
We
chest
don't like
hair.
taco meat.
I really don't care for it.
No, I mean, who wants
Say
to
that-
lay on a chest and all that
Yeah,
hair?
it
going-
feels
It-
prickly.
so you laying on my chest for the hair or
It's mixed.
for the comfort? Which one is it?
For
How
the
is it comfort
It's not
with
comfortable
hair?
with the hair.
Please stop
Some
it.
females like it, some don't.
You got taco meat?
No.
You all right?
He's shaving your off every
Look.
morning.
No,
I
he
know
don't
you.
got no taco
His
meat.
chest is all like red with razor bumps. Stop lying.
No, that's not true.
As much chest hair that I have on my
You got them.
He don't got no chest hair.
You don't.
Don't put your elbows
we
up.
seen
might
your
crack.
snap. We seen your snaps.
He don't got
and
no
your,
chest hair, and ain't no follicle.
Exactly.
It's
You
like
just-
real
you just
thin,
see what I
regular-
do.
Woo, he
He don't got
got
no
the
chest.
taco.
Exactly. See, he got serious me. Don't play me.
Miss Golden Goddess. What are the hot topics?
The
for
hot
tonight?
topic tonight is what is your love language? And for the listeners out there,
Let me hurry and do this
the
right
lovely
now.
Miss Lottie Dottie sent out a quiz to us so we could identify what our love language is. But for those who are not aware or are not sure, there is 5 love languages, and basically this is the way that they feel that people express or show love. So I'm gonna just give you guys like a little brief summary, our listeners, to what it is. The 5 love languages are words of affirmation, physical touch, receiving gifts, quality time, and acts of service. So with the words of affirmation comes the encouragement, the affirmation, appreciate, empathize, listen actively. For the physical touch, nonverbal use of body language and touch to express love, hugs, kisses, hold hands, etc. Receiving gifts, thoughtfulness, making your significant other a priority, speak purposefully, give thoughtful gifts and gestures. Small things matter in a big way. Express gratitude when receiving gifts. Quality time, that's uninterrupted and focused conversations. One-on-one time is critical. So basically you create special moments together, take walks, do small things with your significant other. Weekend getaways are huge. And finally, acts of service. Use action phrases like I'll help you. They want to know that you're with them, partnered with them. Do chores together, make breakfast in bed. Go out of your way to help alleviate their daily workload. So with all I described, for any of our listeners who want to call in and tell us what the love language is, that's fine. And for us,
I
Nightcap
already know mine
family,
is already.
you know
I
how we do.
Let's start off with Walter.
Oh, what I got on the quiz?
Yeah, what did you get?
I got 10 in quality time, 8 in acts of service, 6 in words of affirmation, 5 in physical touch, and 1 in receiving gifts.
Okay. So do you think that's accurate on
I think it's
Semi.
yeah. I think quality time. I'd much rather spend time with the person, and I feel like that's when that isn't that kind of the big point of a relationship is you are spending time with the person,
Right.
getting to be with the person, do things with them.
Right.
Acts
So,
of service was an
my
interesting
question
one.
to you: quality time is imperative. So, would a long distance relationship work for you?
Ooh, probably not. That would be a hard one.
Okay. I
guess it would depend on the situation. Everything's kind of. It also depends on how you feel about the person.
Okay. So, we can agree quality time is something that's important.
Yes.
All right, cool. Fresh Prince of NY. What'd you
What
get?
did I get?
Yeah.
I got 8 in acts of service, 7 in quality time, 7 in words of affirmation, 4 in physical touch, and 4 in receiving gifts.
Okay.
So, which one you feel is your love language, your main one?
Acts of service.
Okay.
Quality time is cool, but sometimes I need me time. Like, you know, because like I would say like my first relationship, we were basically together every single day, and like there's just times you just need time apart just to like get yourself together without
Right, absolutely. I
having
mean,
that person.
you're an
input.
adult now, and we don't have that much time to be
Exactly.
spending time every day.
Exactly. So if
Right.
you work 40 hours a week and then on your days off, then the whole day you're with them. It's like sometimes you just want like 12 hours to
I
yourself.
agree.
Right.
I can't do
Speaking
it.
to anybody.
I agree. I agree with that too.
So.
Q talks.
Yes.
What'd you get, love?
So I got 8 for acts of service, 8 for quality time, 8 for words of affirmation, 5 for physical touch, and 1 for receiving gifts. I would say it's pretty on the nail for me. I like the acts of service. I like someone that does something for me, one without me expecting it.
Right.
Especially when I'm overwhelmed with everything and I turn around and someone just, baby, I got dinner ready for you. Oh,
Yes.
talk
The
to me.
surprises.
Yes.
Yes.
And the quality time, I agree with Prince with having your own personal time because I'm I'm the type of person that wants my personal time. However, I'm very busy, so when I want that quality time, I want that to just be for us.
Right.
Like, I would schedule that just for us to be able to have our time, no phone, no outside world, just us. So I like that.
So would a long distance relationship work for you?
Not necessarily, because at the same time I like to be touched. So like I need
She likes her lips wet.
I can't. I don't know.
So how long can you go without seeing your partner?
I could do a whole week. We'll
A
do
week.
that. We'll do a week, and then after that, by the weekend, it's on and popping.
It's a problem.
Yeah. What's up?
See, some
Where
of
you
these
at?
guys don't get it.
Are you the type to knock on people's doors like, what's up?
Yes, honey, I've done it before.
Ooh, spicy. She's a crazy one. What's your sign again?
I'm a Scorpio.
She's talking nice in my ear right now.
Prince in the back has to take off his coat.
Prince likey.
Hey, stay away from her. Well, she's crazy.
Yeah.
So if you
Like-
want to deal with the crazy women,
Prince
then-
like crazy.
Do you like crazy, Walter?
Oh, no comment on that
Good answer. And take no comment for 500.
Oh my god.
I came prepared today.
Young Fresh Prince, you like crazy?
The younger me, yes. Now, no.
There's levels. There's levels to crazy. Like going crazy for no reason. I got reputation to keep. But I'm silent crazy. I'm the person where no one knows I'm crazy. They be like, who her? No, there's no way.
That's right there. Don't expect it.
Exactly. Unexpected.
Intense like,
Yeah, crazy's a spectrum.
Miss Golden Goddess.
I'm definitely acts of service.
Wait, did you take the test?
I did take the test. I
Would
did.
you read your results, please?
My goodness, I had an 8 in acts of service.
Oh, you memorized it?
Yeah, I mean,
I was.
we've
taken the quiz before.
I feel like I took it before, but
I got
don't
an
know
8
what
in
results
acts of
was.
service. I got a 6 in quality time. I got a a 4 in physical touch. I got a 2 in receiving gifts, and the other one.
If I'm not mistaken, if my math is correct,
Your scores all over the place right now.
I think that's already 20.
You know they gave you one in each in each category.
Right. And you said 8, 6, 4, 2, and then
I said, you know what? I'm not messing with you.
Matt's a mathematician all the time.
Exactly. Ain't nobody say nothing with his scores. He had like an 8 in this today. You know what? Y'all trying to come for me. I'm not. Now I'm definitely acts of service. Just as long as you got my back and you know you helping me out, I'm good to go. I'm not, physical touch is cool. You don't gotta tell me all the time that you love me and all that other stuff. If we together and you holding it down, I kind of know that you love me, or I should feel that you love me.
Now you're talking good in my ear right now.
Right, absolutely. Actions
what
speak
saying?
louder than words sometimes.
Receiving gifts, that's not a big thing to me because I'm more like a sentimental person. Sometimes
Or
it's
giving.
the small things that I don't mind giving gifts either. If that's your thing and I love you and we're together, I'll do that. For me personally, that's not like on my priority list. Like it's the small things, like Q said, surprising me with dinner, or pulling up to my job, like yo, let's go out to lunch. Bring me a cup of coffee if you're in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So you don't gotta do me lavish.
Of me.
Yeah, you don't gotta do lavish.
Appreciate
Can you repeat
Yeah.
that one more time so they didn't hear you?
Show me you were thinking.
Yeah,
of
show
me.
me. You don't have to do lavish things to like. You know what I'm saying?
Word.
It's the
You
sentimental
know me
things
already.
that count.
Let me tell you something. When I put a ring on it, and she starts throwing that nonsense, I'm gonna start putting bowls on some appliances.
It's the sentimental things that count.
I mean, it is. I mean, like you could buy me a lavish present. I really don't love it. I love the card more. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
What's
Like it's those it's things like that I like. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like cards are important to me. I'm a card person. I like sentiments. So those are the things that I like, especially when you take your time out and you find me a nice card. Because sometimes, words speak a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So talk to me.
Yeah.
So if I pick up a car in the back of a pickup truck and give it to you,
If you pick up a card in the back of a pickup truck and you wrote something special in the card, I'd probably hold that card forever.
what was that?
You know
happy
what's
funeral
crazy?
card
I
you
still
think?
have all my cards from junior high school.
Me
So
too.
do I. I have Christmas cards. I have community cards. I have
That's an
birthday
issue right
cards.
there.
It's not
I
an
still
issue.
have that. I have letters.
I keep cards.
I keep them
I
too.
keep handwritten stuff.
Me too. I even have, you remember back in the day, Aaliyah 4-page letter? In junior high, when that came out, everybody was writing them letters. I got
a
them.
couple of them.
Time out. I ain't keep the 4-page letters from junior.
I got
What has
everything.
this look of what are
I
you
did.
guys talking about? I
It's
love
just
it.
another way of expressing yourself.
Right.
If you can pencil anything and just tell me how you feel, I'll appreciate that
Listen,
over
man,
anything.
men, don't incriminate yourself. Don't do that.
It's not incriminating.
They
It's
gonna
just
hold over your life.
expressing yourself.
Yeah, her. She has his letters from junior high school.
Why not?
That's like 20 years ago.
Who cares?
I still
Actually,
got
no,
them.
15.
I have a box.
Just what they wrote, and then she just puts them on another one. That's
No, I have a box.
No, because it's the time and effort that you put into writing these things. Sometimes, you could be having a bad day and then you think about the card, or maybe you were like, oh, that's
And you
so
get and you
sweet.
read it,
Huh?
and then you read it to
Why
yourself.
not? Why not?
Yeah, it's the sentimental things that count. And this is why, she had
Acts of service.
Right. It works. I had two. Two of the top. Two were the same. Mine was acts of service and receiving gifts.
Surprise,
And he
surprise,
likes
surprise.
I mean, I grew up spoiled. What can I say?
Oh yeah.
No, but acts of service definitely is the sentimental things that count. Like one of the things that I had received, someone was just thinking about me. They, in a frame, they wrote a poem and they gave it to me, and I thought that was the sweetest thing. And sad to say, it's not sad to say, but it's actually still hanging in my room.
Nice.
Yeah,
From the guy that you say in your room.
yeah, because
How
of the
long ago was this
poem.
poem written for you?
How long ago?
Yes.
Probably 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah, it's just hanging there because it was something that was sweet. Not that I wake up every morning and I read it and look at it. It's just hanging. It's just hanging there.
What's your problem, DJ Intense?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Like, they ain't together. Throw
It's
it
not.
in.
Right.
It's not like we're together.
Let me
I
tell
mean,
you
we're still friends, but
If I was dating you and I saw that, incineration.
I mean, it's not. No. It's
Any
not
guy
that.
dating Lady Daddy, go through her drawers and take the cards and burn them all. Burn them. I'd be like, you're the only man.
I mean,
Hey,
so
yeah, I'm
that
the only
means
man.
that we're gonna have to go to the pawn shop because I still have all the jewelry. They're all in a box.
Yeah.
I have a lot of things. I just don't throw them away.
We need some extra income in here. Get rid of it.
I mean, as long as he's gonna replace them, I ain't got a problem.
That's right.
Now it's a problem. You want me to throw out my jewelry, but you won't replace it.
Yeah, every year she needs something new. Diamond tennis bracelet.
Actually, I don't need those things because I'm different now. When I was younger, fine. Now it's a whole different thing. I'm like, if you want to give me something for my birthday or whatever, let's invest into something. I want to build. I don't care about the jewelry. I wear costume jewelry every day, any day. It means nothing. I'll go to the beauty supply store and purchase a fake cubic zirconian and put it in my ear.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it really doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I think when you get older, your priorities
You change. It's not the same.
Hey, Prince B, you took the quiz?
No, he didn't take the
He didn't take the quiz.
But what would be your love language?
Yeah.
I already know what my love language is. I ain't take the quiz.
Yeah, what would be yours?
Words of affirmation.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to me nice.
Prince, come to the mic.
As long as you talking to him nice, you could get whatever.
So basically, all she has to do is whisper some sweet,
Talk nice to me, man.
Talk to me nice.
Talk nice, act nice, be nice.
and she can
then
get
she
whatever
can get
she
whatever.
wants.
You get whatever you want.
That's easy.
Shoot. I wish you guys
Complicated
to be
stuff
nice.
is too much because they're gonna want.
He on his
they're gonna want
Marco.
the same thing from me.
He's definitely on his Marco tonight.
Thank God Marco's not here. Woo!
Marco different.
I mean, that's pretty easy. So you're easy. He's pretty easy to satisfy.
Yeah.
I don't ask for much. All I want is to be loved. Love me and respect me.
And get his lips wet.
respect
That's it. Love and respect me. And touch me good. If you can do that, yo, you won me.
So words of affirmation and physical touch.
Touch me good. Nice.
Real nice.
Touch him nice.
I mean, that's pretty easy. And I think women, we as women, we
You'd be
want the same
surprised.
thing. We want that to be reciprocated. So my question is, why is it so hard
Well,
for certain? Okay,
You get to me yet.
let's get into you. What is your
I ain't taking
love
no
language?
stupid test, but I already know mine's is. Mine's act of service. I am that kind of person.
You like to give?
Yeah, make sure you got some clothes for work next morning. You got food in your belly.
Aw.
You got gas in your car.
And this
Make
is
sure
why
the oil
he's
change
in a
is done.
relationship for 6 years strong.
Acts of service. Gas the car.
You know what I'm
Wash
saying?
the car.
Wash the car. Clean the car for you.
That's the best thing. You
Fill
know.
up
Make
both
sure-
Fill up
tanks.
the tank,
Make
take the
sure,
car
you know.
for the oil change. Although
Yeah.
I can do all that myself, I've never had that. I never allowed it actually to
No,
happen.
that's you.
Right.
Because I'm so used to doing everything.
Nah,
on my
let that
own.
man. No, it's sweet. Like that is really sweet. I have that. Like when my
Remember
car
girls
needs
I
to be
dated,
done,
and
baby,
they
make
never
sure the
did the
car
oil change?
is done.
After 6 months, 7, 8 months, you finally make sense.
Listen, nothing.
makes sense.
Listen,
Now you
nothing
sounding
is
good,
more
yo.
sweet than when you
Sounds
come out
good,
to a
Mr.
clean
Intense
car,
makes
the
sense.
oil's changed, the gas tank is full, and it smells like fresh black ice.
I know you work all day. You're hungry.
I like the cherry one though.
Then you go.
or pine.
You
I
sounding
feed
good.
you. I do your laundry, so you got clothes. Because some of you ladies, I'm sorry.
I missed
I
that.
might disrespect y'all, but some of you girls don't know wash clothes. I don't know what y'all doing. They
I
wash their
separate
clothes.
my
But I
colors.
mean, that's
my
come
sweet.
dark,
back. It
my
don't
light.
smell. It smell like
No.
feet.
Smell like
That's
yesterday.
because they don't got the
Yeah.
good smelling fabric soft. They gotta get the fabric softener that
that
smells
game.
Swivel
good.
is
that
good.
drip.
Swivel is real good. The
Or-
yellow one.
Or what you do is you could spray it one more time before
Nah,
you throw it in the wash.
You don't,
Or-
you don't want too much overpowering with the salt fabric.
I like my clothes smelling like fresh fabric soap. Like
Nah.
I really like the snuggle.
Nah.
You can't be out here in the street smelling like yesterday.
Yeah,
You know what happened?
smell like
You gotta
fresh
wash
today.
wash yourself.
You gotta wash
I
your clothes.
love.
Yeah.
I remember it was a.
So you
got
wash
to.
your.
I wash my clothes, and I wash her clothes, and I wash all the clothes I date because I don't like dirty
Man.
clothes.
Wow. Okay.
Can we
And I
clone
put it
you?
away.
Intense for
And I
president.
put it away, and then write the little drawer so that
You
when they
even
go.
fold?
Huh?
He was
folded up.
He was
Wow.
hanging out
You
with
got a
Marco.
cousin?
Huh?
He was hanging out with Marco.
No, listen, I've been doing.
Yeah, good job, Marco.
Listen, I'm independent,
Wow.
so I don't need a girl for nothing. Just like I
Yeah.
said,
Just
talk
love
me
you
nice.
down.
It's one thing being independent as a man, but to do
Yeah,
the
do my-
same act of
Yeah,
service.
clean up my place up
Yeah.
nice. Might clean up your place up nice. And, you know,
Oh.
I just, man, I
Ain't
gotta make
nothing
sure-
more
even
sexy
know
than a
you.
man who could do laundry and cook.
I just can't cook.
No.
I
A
burn
lot
water
of,
though.
No.
Listen, it's a start.
If you could clean up, we
Listen,
could work.
we
Prince,
good?
Prince,
Okay.
you to university, bro. That's how you figured it all out,
I
bro.
mean, yeah. I have a passion for food. I've always wanted
you
to.
just buy it.
But
No,
go
no,
to
no,
YouTube
I
University.
actually go on YouTube and actually watch.
Yeah,
like,
that's-
So then cook them things. And then
I'm
roll
scared
them-
because I don't listen. I'm West Indian, so
You
you know what I mean.
Bro,
When the
Tablespoon.
the tablespoon people are talking about six tablespoons
No.
of this.
When you
I do
cook,
12.
no. When you cook, listen.
Because they don't watch their meat, so they
Real
clearly don't know
people
what they're
who
talking
cook
about.
don't measure. You just kind of know
You
what
figure where
seasoning
you're
go
going,
You know
in.
what you need.
Yeah,
how
you
much.
like, you Haitian. But 3.2.
I don't listen.
Yeah,
Yo, you feel me?
Just don't use too much salt.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because all these guys
No
they
salt,
don't watch their meat.
it depends on, like, for example, if you're using rice and you
Hold on,
have
wait,
to
wait,
have
time
the
out.
eye
I'm
level.
gonna ask you something. You rinse your rice when you cook it or no?
Huh?
When you cook rice, do you rinse or you don't cook rice at all?
I don't do nothing. I'm a professional water burner. I
You
burn
won't know
water.
the difference. You won't know.
I burn water, baby.
When
have
you
to
cook
have
rice,
to
rinse
wash
it.
your rice.
You gotta rinse your rice.
first.
Okay.
Yeah.
To get the starch out, and then you cook it.
And you better save that rice water because it's good for your hair.
Yes, I was reading
I
that.
just boil it in,
No, like when
I'm
you
a
wash
professional.
it, it's good to strain it out. Use it as a thing for your hair. It says it makes your hair grow.
Come on, man. So next year I go to the club and the girls smell my clothes smell like
The rice water.
all Febreze
They be
and
like, "Come
drip."
over here,
And then
Uncle
they
Ben,
smell
with
my
the
hair
taco
like,
meat."
It's like food. And then they might tap me on my chest. We trying to set me up?
You gonna be smelling like Uncle Ben with taco meat.
So, I guess we had a pretty cool night. We had Q in the building.
Hey.
Oh, you didn't finish going through all these. All right. Is it too late?
What? We have more?
Yeah.
What do we have?
Would you date someone who has a felony charge? Why or why not?
We was saving that
And
for
then
next
next
week.
Oh, sorry. Instead, jumped the gun. My
I
bad.
was answering now. It's already too
Might as
late.
well.
Cause he bought it up.
I brought it up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All right, so we
already messed it up.
real quick. All right, real
I'm
quick.
sorry.
Let's start off with our attorney here, Walter. Would you date someone with a felony? Why or why not?
I think it depends on the felony, doesn't it?
Yeah,
That's one.
Good point.
For instance, in the case we were talking about before, is a felony tax evasion, and then she went ahead and voted. But neither of those would probably turn me off from dating somebody.
Probable.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Okay, so you would date someone with
Technically, yes. Felony assault, I don't know. That's a little bit scarier.
Smart choice. I like that choice.
DJ Prince B.
I don't want it. I don't want it. It don't sound good in my ears.
No. So
I don't want it.
Oy,
Well, actually, well, like, for example, so like, let's say that you got like, isn't it like when you have like two DUIs? That's
What,
a felony.
DWI?
DWI
In New York, yeah.
Okay, that one. I mean, that's a little scary. But the other ones, I don't want it. I don't want to hear it.
no.
I don't
So
hear it.
there's levels.
There's levels to it, man.
So burglary,
No,
assault.
no.
Tax evasion.
Yes. Smart. This is not that smart.
She's not that smart. Yeah, she alright. What's the next one?
Murder.
Hell
Manslaughter.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah,
I
murdered
realize you
someone.
can't even ask the rest of us.
Nah,
Drugs.
because
Drug
drugs.
possession.
Which
Drug
drugs?
charge.
Well, is she using using it or
She
dealing
wasn't.
it?
She was.
She's a
She was
seller.
a dealer.
She a dealer?
She a hustler.
Oh.
Baby, you make money. I love it. Yeah. Nah, she sounded good.
Would you date a drug dealer, Walter?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. What was she dealing?
Doesn't matter.
Cocaine. She rich.
Fentanyl.
Fentanyl. Whoa.
Narcotics.
She rich.
Narcotics.
Oh, so she's a really like overachiever, huh?
She
All right.
Like narcos.
Maybe. We'll see.
Hell yeah.
Cute.
Funny. I don't know. I don't see myself as a ride or die girl for that right now.
Really? No.
You can date scammers. You can date drug dealers. What's the difference?
You right.
It's the same thing.
The thing is, waiting for someone to come out of jail or
Wow.
what? Am I dating them in jail or are they out already?
Would you just date someone who has a felony charge?
I'm feeling you, but I got a felony, baby. What's up?
I don't know, cause if we got financial problems, then we gonna have to really have a problem, cause you won't be able to get a job. Everyone's gonna.
I mean, there's ways around that.
I'm cold-hearted. I don't know.
She's a no, Miss Golden Goddess.
And it depends on the felony. I don't want to date a rapist.
Yeah.
Sex offenders, no.
A child abuser.
See,
a killer. You know, like I don't know, but like you know, if it's like tax evasion, it all depends on if it's something light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's different classes of felonies. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So. And how many you got? Like if it's just one felony charge for something light, then yeah. But if it's something that
what if they were wrongly accused?
See, that's a different.
but then
story.
when their record be expunged, but
No.
not in New
No,
York.
wrongfully accused. But this is what we were talking about before when we were talking about cash bail. People plea bargain to things, and the issue with cash bail is that people are now, you're already in jail, so you want to get out, you'll plead to something.
Right.
Because I know someone personally in another state, and the story is crazy, but a written statement was given to them, and they had to sign. It was either they signed the written statement or they had to do 30 to life,
Coercion.
taking it to trial.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's the plea bargain process.
And
a
had
lo-
2 days to make that decision.
that's-
It happens. It
That's
happens
garbage.
behind the scenes. This
But
is what goes
isn't
on.
that coercion, Walter? Like
I mean, it goes on.
Well, it's a coercion that exists in the system, but unfortunately, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And
Right.
that's the thing. It doesn't mean that you are like it's not going to be held against you. It's you decided to plead to this. They're going to
Right.
look at it as, and that's the problem with mandatory minimums is that people look at it and they go, well, God, I have to. If I lose a trial, I'm guaranteed going to jail for 3.5 years. I'm guaranteed going to jail for 5 years.
Real quick, if you had to make a decision, would you take it to trial or would you plea?
It all depends on the case. If it depends on the facts surrounding a case. There's never a right answer for that. A lot of times you do plea bargain. Sometimes you
Right.
plea bargain to something that, you know what, this isn't going to stay on my record. I can expunge it later on. And it depends on. New York doesn't even have expungements. You could seal things, but
Right.
but they don't have expungements. New Jersey has expungements, but that even will take time. And now the good thing with assuming New Jersey ever does legalize marijuana, the proposed law makes it that they would make it easier to expunge those records. So, everything comes down to the facts surrounding a case. What are you accused of?
Right.
What's the potential outcome and what evidence they have. And like I said before, discovery in New York versus discovery in New Jersey is different. New Jersey has a very rigorous system for discovery. You can make motions, and in New York you can still make motions, but it's harder because you might not get your discovery till the day of trial. So
Wow.
it depends on the case, and it depends on the situation and how you feel about something. And sometimes you do get a good deal. Sometimes somebody comes up to you and says, oh, all right, I'll do this. And sometimes the prosecutor pulls a deal.
Right.
I've had that happen.
Right.
That's frustrating.
I guess we'll never know. And as for me, myself, would I date a person with a felony? Yes, it depends on what
I
the
knew
felony.
you said yes.
No, you know why? Because there was a
You
point
believe
in
in
my
love?
life. There was a point in time in my life I was like, oh no. And then I met someone, we were vibing. And he said he had a felony. It was a drug charge. But it was his past. It was his past.
If it's his past,
It was his
'cause
past.
It has to be his past.
And it wasn't his current. So I rocked with it. It was fine. And he was successful. He did what he had to do. So I had no problems. He was smart, educated. I was cool with it. It was his past. Never
ask you?
resurfaced.
Yes, they did.
We
Did you
did.
ask Fresh
It's your
Prince?
turn.
No.
Jack Fresh Prince?
Yeah.
Fresh Prince.
Fresh.
No,
Would-
I'm all set.
No, you guys speak.
Would you
I'm
date
saying
someone
I'm
with a
all
felony?
set. No.
No?
No.
Oh, you boring.
There's a million people in this world I can find one without a felony.
Because once you get a felony, you're a zombie. You're a walking dead. You can't do anything.
That's false.
You can't do anything.
That is
It's just a lot harder to do things.
It's harder. You just gotta work a little extra hard. That's all.
You work harder.
It depends on what the.
It is a
felony
scarlet letter, and that's the problem with having things like we were talking about before, mandatory minimums and cash bail, and making it harder for people to make that right decision to say maybe I shouldn't take this plea bargain, or maybe looking at revising some of those laws, or even looking at again we were talking about decriminalization of marijuana in both New York and New Jersey, but there's other things that can be decriminalized. And again, when you look at those individual laws that could be reduced, not having to walk around with that scarlet letter of a felony. So, like you're saying, it might be you're the Walking Dead, or you have the scarlet letter that's affecting your ability to work or live, or like we were talking before about voting.
Right.
And then you end up like wanting to get back into selling drugs again and all of that, because after you get the felony, it takes a while. You can't get a job, you can't do this, so you're like, let me go sell some drugs again, and you get caught up all over again.
It depends on the person and how ambitious they are, and what they want their life.
Hey, Q, ask me that question.
Huh?
Answer the question.
You said answer the question.
Ask me the question.
DJ Intense, would you?
Yeah. No, I want Q to ask me though.
Well, DJ Intense, would you date somebody with a felony?
Yes, I would. I've done it before.
You were good, and then you messed up.
Yeah, I've done it before, man. Shoot.
What was the charge?
What was the charge?
With her?
Assault?
Shoot, she had DWI, DUI, possession.
Did you ever ride in a car with her?
I drove the car with her.
Assault.
I had to drive the car.
Riding dirty.
And you was okay with
Dirty,
that?
dirty.
Huh?
You were okay with that?
Yeah. Listen, man, people make mistakes, man.
You know.
You're practicing that short shuttle.
Man, I'm a wild boy, man. What can I say? I was a wild boy. I'm retired.
I was about to say, nothing. Intense don't really care.
I really don't.
He is different.
I'm a different kind of guy.
It don't make sense.
All right, Walter. So tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter and Snapchat and Instagram at Brojo Death Punch. BROJO. Death, like what happens at the end of life, and punch.
How did you come up with that?
A couple of friends came up with it for me, and it kind of stuck. It was a few years ago. Before I became a lawyer, I was a filmmaker. But before the whole comedy, and because I did film when I was in college before I went ahead and went to law school. And a couple of friends of mine were kind of like screwing around, and I have a weird last name, Deptich, and the name that I went by for the first 20 years or so of my life was Wojo. It's a combination of my first name and my middle name. In fact, nobody in my family calls me Walter.
Really?
Yeah. They all call me Wojo.
I guess we gotta call you Wojo.
And that's how, and then one day one of my friends is calling me Wojo Deptich, and it's like, dude, Brojo Death Punch. Oh my God, let's call it that. And then that stuck somehow. And that became my Twitter handle, my Instagram, Snapchat, everything.
Dope. One joke.
My aunt turned 60 recently, and for her birthday, we had a hoedown. Well, technically it was a luau, but one of my cousins fell over.
I can't.
That was actually funny though.
Hold down.
No. I got it from the opening tap.
Miss Q.
Yes,
Tell
ma'am.
everybody where they can find you.
As always, you can find me on all social media platform. Q Talks, QUI Talks with an S, and also follow the Next Gen Instagram, Next Gen Teen Summit. You guys get all the information about this weekend coming up.
Nice.
Yeah, my bro Prince B gonna shut it down.
DJ Prince B. Tell everybody whether you can
Yes.
find
Yours truly,
And your girl
DJ, of course. Lottie's DM. DJ, follow yours truly, DJ Prince. Follow yours truly, DJ Prince B, DJ PRINZE, letter B. You could just hashtag me and I'll pop up everywhere on everything that you use, everywhere. So that's it.
Fresh Prince of NY. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Got his code on ready to go.
Follow me on Instagram, Fresh Prince of NY, 2 Y's at the end. That's it.
Okay, and you already
Is it
know.
all one word or is there hashtags in between? All one word. There's no underlying things in between?
Nah, it's straight. Yeah.
Is it a capital F for the
No.
Fresh Prince of NY, 2 Y's.
I'm just messing with you, that's all.
You already know who this is. It's your girl, Miss Lottie Dottie. And you can find me, MS_Lottie Dottie on Instagram.
You forgot 2 people.
Facts. Yeah, you did. But it's your girl, Golden Goddess, and you can find me at Golden Goddess 30_. She always forgetting us.
No. I always get you. I usually forget DJ Intense.
But I think it's because I'm your past life Intense. We on the same. You feel me? You feel me? We here.
All right, let's do this again. Miss Golden Goddess, tell everybody where they can find you.
I already did. Now I gotta go. Let me go to my boo, my past life, DJ Intense. Tell them where they can find you.
And your mom's DMs.
She ain't got Instagram.
Stop playing.
Mine's do.
Oh, word? She's single?
I know your mom.
She is. And she on Facebook. But I ain't gonna tell you where she at.
It's over.
Boy.
It's over. You call me Pappy.
Y'all are too much.
You can find me on all social media platforms at DJINTNCE. That's Periscope, Snapchat, Bookface, Gram, Insta, all that stuff.
Pornhub.
Tumblr.
Timber.
Tumblr?
Yeah, all
Twitch.
that stuff. DJ Intense.
MPA.
Pornhub has an account?
No, actually, not only do you have an account, you get
Oh,
paid
wow.
$3,400.
What, you gotta pay?
No. For a video,
They pay you.
they pay you $3,400.
$3,400 for a video?
Can you cover your face?
Yeah.
If it's good.
As long as it's good.
Wait a minute. They'll pay you $3,400 just for a video.
Yes.
A lot of people gonna start reassessing
And you
it.
gotta tell me twice. If this DJ thing don't work,
Call it. Remember Mr. Marcus? You can end up with your own toy line.
Yeah, we lit.
Mr.
I mean,
The Haitian
if they
man.
don't see your face, why not?
I'm pretty sure
No
they
face,
got. I'm
no
pretty
pay?
sure they got
No face.
rules to that.
Yeah, I want to know what the stipulations
You probably gotta be
are.
very popular to get that going.
Bro, all you need to do is touch good, kiss good. This is too much math.
Listen, let me tell you, you don't gotta really do nothing. Listen, look at Kim K. It wasn't like her joint was the bomb. You just gotta look. You just gotta look good doing it.
Yeah, I don't know why you don't smash that, boy.
You feel me?
Listen, you just gotta look good. Smile.
So now
Big
we're
into the
endorsing
music, bro.
Pornhub.
We're endorsing
Listen,
it.
student loans piling up, kids hungry.
You know what I mean?
Listen,
I got a kid to feed, bro.
that's what I'm saying. You doing it for free $99, you might as well get $3,400 a session.
Yeah, I agree with that.
No more
Get the
photo
camera.
apps, no more.
Remember that
little-
episode of Martin? Get the
bougie-
camera, the flogger, and the cup of ice.
No more
It's
bougie
going
club chicks, man. It's all about Pornhub and
Yep.
making this money.
You know, it's funny. I know
Wow,
a porn star. A dancer
$3,400.
who's a porn star too.
Really?
Yeah, she's making cake. She does all that OnlyFans, all that other fancy stuff.
We coming to the club with you with a notepad.
Seriously.
Ain't coming with me.
Yeah, we are. We going up in there. We going with a notepad.
I
Yeah.
don't know what this is
Have
about.
you been to DJ Intense?
Now Walter don't come out with me like that. We just know from the gym. That's about it.
Walter, don't go out. Don't go out with
Welcome
him.
to the strip club.
Nah.
Let him wet his lips a little bit. Dirty his boxes.
I gotta take babysitter Walter. You know, we gotta go to the legs, little studios first. Then we make the way up the corporate ladder, and then then we get to the right spot where he feels comfortable.
Bring him to cheeks.
No.
Don't bring him to the other one. The other one, there was a whole bunch of
Wait, Roxy, you gotta bring
female-
him baby steps.
You know what?
Do you like your women
Unseasoned
thick
meat.
or slim?
It depends.
You date all?
That's his
Yeah.
response for everything. It depends.
That's a safe answer.
That's the attorney in him.
Yeah, pretty much. It depends is pretty much the answer every attorney will give you. Yes, it depends.
It depends for 500.
It's the safe way to go.
Well, there's always some kind of factor that comes in. You know, you'll like somebody because of their personality or because of, the way they look or the way they talk, or there's so many different things that come into it that it's why limit yourself in a certain aspect of life.
Now you make sense. You talk good in my ears, like Prince B said. Yeah, you speaking good in my ears.
Well,
The idea
you-
is
I
you gotta
just
have
wanna
both
know.
because maybe if we're bored at the crib, we're recording.
I
We're
agree
going on
with that
Pornhub.
though.
3,400.
It's everything. You know, it's not just the looks. Because sometimes I might not be into the looks of the guy. It's
gotta
his
have
personality. It's his character.
You gotta have both.
He
in
makes
case you guys
maybe
start
he
doing
makes me
Pornhub.
smile.
That's how I get the girls.
Yeah, as long as you keep me laughing, we good. Well,
Of course.
tune in each and every Sunday here on Radio G2K, Radio Generation 2000 with the Nightcap. You got Golden Goddess, Young Fresh Prince of NY, DJ Prince B, me, myself, Lottie Dottie, and DJ Intense. See y'all next week.
You are now rocking with DJ Intense, Mr. International.
You are now tuned in the Nightcap, 87.9 FM, Radio Generation 2000.com.